You think The Flash is the end of the story. You have been lied to by every movie you ever watched. The Flash is just a starter pistol for a marathon where the losers don't get a medal, they get a shallow grave. On day 7, the real math starts. It is not about how much ammo you have. It is about the sound of your child's dry tongue clicking against the roof of their mouth because you trusted a municipal faucet that was never designed to be anything more than a fragile promise. Go back to hour 0. The mid-sized town you call home did not take a direct hit, but you felt the earth buck like a wounded animal. The sky over the horizon turned a bruised, impossible violet. The silence that followed was not peaceful, it was a vacuum. Every electronic device in your hand, on your wrist, or in your dashboard became an expensive paperweight in a microsecond. The EMP did not just kill the lights, it killed the very idea of reaching out for help. You are now on an island. In those first 4 hours, you saw the neighbours lose their minds. The denial stage is the most dangerous. I watched a man in a business suit try to start his dead SUV for 45 minutes while the black smoke began to rise from the city centre 30 miles away. He could not accept that the world where he had a 401k and a morning commute had been deleted. While he fumbled with his keys, the smart ones were already filling every bathtub and plastic bin they owned. They knew the pressure was a dying breath. Hope is not a strategy. Most people guess they have enough food, but the math says otherwise. They think they are ready until the first week passes and the hunger turns into a physical weight. Do not be the person guessing while their family starves. Go to protocolsurvival.com right now, calculate your survival score, and enroll in our free Catastrophe Survival 101 course. Get the training and the checklists you need before the signal drops forever. Your family is counting on your competence, not your luck. Secure your plan today. By hour 6, the wind shifted. That is when the grit started to fall. It looks like grey snow, but it is actually the pulverised remains of a city. This is the fallout. In a mid-sized town, you are in the crosshairs of the prevailing winds. If you stayed outside to watch the sky, you were essentially inviting a slow-motion execution into your lungs. You had to make the call: stay and seal the room, or run and risk being caught in the open when the heaviest particles landed. Most chose wrong. You dragged the family into the basement. You used the plastic sheeting and the duct tape, thinking you were clever. But by hour 12, the air in that cramped space started to taste like copper and sweat. You realized then that shielding is about mass, not just airtight seals. You need dirt, concrete, or water between you and the outside. Every inch of brick is a second of life. You sat there in the dark, listening to the Geiger counter's frantic chirping, wondering if the walls you built were thick enough to keep the ghosts out. During that first night, the sounds changed. It was not just the wind. It was people realizing they were trapped. You heard a car smash into a tree down the street, somebody trying to drive with no headlights and failing. Then came the shouting. People were looking for medicine, for water, for an explanation. You had to sit there in the blackness, holding a shotgun you hoped you would never use, and listen to your neighbours turn into desperate strangers. This is where the social contract starts to fray. The physics of the situation are cold and unfeeling. The 7 to 10 rule is your only Bible now. For every 7-fold increase in time, the radiation intensity drops by a factor of 10. At 7 hours, it is still lethal. You are pinned down. You cannot go out for more supplies. You cannot check on your parents across town. You are a prisoner of the decay rates. This is the hardest part for the American mind, the waiting. We want to do something, to act. But acting now is just an expensive way to commit suicide. By day 2, the thirst is a physical presence. You've saved some water, but you are realizing how much a human actually needs. Not just for drinking, but for hygiene. If you do not wash the fallout dust off your hands before you eat, you are ingesting alpha and beta emitters. You are cooking yourself from the inside out. You watch your daughter take a sip from a canteen, and you feel a pang of guilt because you know exactly how many sips are left in that plastic bottle. The math is brutal. Nobody talks about the buckets. By day 3, the toilets do not flush. You cannot just dump waste in the backyard. The radiation levels outside are still high, and the smell inside is becoming a biohazard. This is where the grind starts. You have to manage human waste in a 5-gallon bucket with kitty litter or sawdust. If you mess this up, you get dysentery. In a world without hospitals, diarrhea is a death sentence. You are learning that survival is 90% chores you never wanted to do. Welcome to day 7, 168 hours since the world broke. This is a massive psychological milestone. For the first week, he lived on adrenaline and hope. He thought maybe the National Guard would roll in with water buffaloes and MREs. But as the sun rises on the 7th day, the town is silent. The radiation has decayed to 1/100th of its initial level. In moderate zones, it is now below 1 Rontgen per hour. You can finally step outside, but the world you are stepping into is no longer yours. The most devastating sound of day 7 is the silence of the distance. For 6 days, you might have heard the faint, distant chug of the hospital's emergency generators. It was a heartbeat for the town. But most institutional fuel supplies only last a week. Today, those generators ran dry. The hospital is dark. The fire station's comms are dead. The last institutional lights in the county have blinked out. When those lights go, the last shred of the old world goes with them. You are truly on your own now. Without power, the municipal water system is not just interrupted, it is dead. The pressure in the pipes has hit 0. The water sitting in those lines is stagnating, turning into a cocktail of bacteria and rust. The sewage pumps have failed too. Raw wastewater is beginning to leach into the groundwater. If you think you can just go to the local creek and take a drink, you are betting your life on a coin flip. This is how cholera starts. This is how empires fall. You look at your family. They are thinner. Their skin is sallow from a week in the dark. Your son asks for a glass of water, and you have to tell him no, we have to ration. The guilt is a physical weight in your chest. You had years to prepare for this. You spent money on streaming services and new trucks instead of a deep well hand pump or a serious filtration system. Now, your child's health is the price of your procrastination. That realization is more toxic than the fallout. But there is a silver lining. The radiation levels are finally manageable for short durations. In your town, 15 miles from ground zero, the outdoor levels are hovering around 0.5 Rontgens per hour. It is not safe to live out there, but you can scout. You can move. You need to gather intel. What happened to the grocery store? Is the pharmacy looted? This is the emergence phase. You have to transition from a turtle hiding in its shell to a wolf hunting for its pack. You step out onto your porch for the first time in a week. The air tastes like ash and ozone. Everything is covered in that fine grey dust. You see your neighbour's dog, ribs showing, wandering the street. The quiet is absolute. No cars, no planes, no hum of AC units. It is the sound of a graveyard. You realise that your mission has changed. You are no longer just surviving. You are scavenging. And you better believe you were not the only one who had that idea today. You think about your own generator. You have maybe 10 gallons left. At 4 hours a day, That gives you 5 more days of light. This is the fuel calculus. Do you use it to keep the freezer cold? Or do you accept that the meter's gone and use the power for recharging your radio and flashlights? Every drop of gasoline is now a non-renewable resource, more precious than gold. You start thinking about how to siphon from the dead cars on the street. You are becoming a different person already. You might think the National Guard will step in any moment, that the federal government has a plan for a mid-sized town like yours. Let me debunk that right now. In a full-scale nuclear exchange, the Guard is prioritised for continuity of government and protecting high-value assets like nuclear silos and major ports. Your cul-de-sac in suburban America is not on their priority list. They are not coming to save you because they are too busy trying to save the idea of a nation. You are the only government you have. Let us talk about the reality of sewage. When the pumps fail, the waste does not just sit there, it backs up. If you live in a low-lying area, your basement might already be filling with the neighbourhood's collective filth. This is not just a smell issue, it is a tactical threat. Flies will start to swarm. Diseases like dysentery and typhoid thrive in this environment. If you do not have a strict SOP for sanitation, your bunker becomes your tomb. Cleanliness is a force multiplier. By the end of the first week, your body has burned through its glycogen stores. You are now running on fat and muscle. You need 2,000 calories a day just to maintain basic cognitive function. If you are scavenging, you need 3,000. You look at your pantry. Those cans of soup? They are 300 calories each. You do the math and realise you have maybe 10 days before you hit the wall. The urgency of finding a sustainable food source becomes a screaming alarm in your head. When the grid goes dark, the cloud goes with it. All that knowledge you think you have on your phone, it is gone. You need a command centre that works offline, in your hand, regardless of the towers. I built Protocol Survival to be that system. It is designed to help you inventory your gear, manage your rations, and access survival training modules without a signal. Secure your inventory and download the training now while you still have a connection. Go to protocolsurvival.com and get the offline backup you cannot live without. Do not wait for the signal to die. On day 7, you see your first group of looters. They are not organised gangs, not yet. They are just groups of 3 or 4 men from the next town over, looking for anything they can carry. They look as tired as you do, but they are desperate. This is the moment you realise that your front door is just a suggestion. You need to harden your perimeter. You need to coordinate with the 2 neighbours you actually trust. If you stand alone, you are just a supply cache for someone else. Think about the people on maintenance meds. The diabetics, the people with heart conditions. Their 1-month supply is already a quarter gone. The pharmacies are either boarded up or picked clean. By day 7, the first wave of medical casualties is starting. It is not from radiation. It is from the lack of a functioning supply chain. You realise that a simple infection from a scratched hand could be fatal now. You treat your first aid kit like it is made of diamonds. Every bandage is a lifeline. Day 7 is when the adrenaline finally quits. You feel a fatigue that goes into your bones. The reality of a 30-day survival window and the long haul beyond settles in. You might find yourself staring at a wall for an hour, unable to move. This is combat fatigue in a civilian setting. You have to snap out of it. Your family is watching you. If they see you break, they lose the will to fight. You have to lead, even if you are terrified. Survival is a mental game above all else. The radio is mostly static. You might pick up a distant AM station from 1,000 miles away, broadcasting emergency loops on repeat. There is no news of a ceasefire. No word on the state of the world. The isolation is a weapon. It makes you think you are the only one left. But you cannot let the silence win. You start using a hand crank radio every hour on the hour, desperate for a human voice. This is the loneliness of the post-atomic world. You are hungry for information. Skip ahead to day 15. The radiation has decayed further, but the world has become much more dangerous. The initial shock has worn off and been replaced by cold, calculated desperation. The people who did not have a plan are now starving. They are leaving their homes in larger numbers. You see smoke on the horizon, not from the initial blasts, but from house fires that nobody is coming to put out. The town is starting to burn in slow motion. You need a way to move without being seen. When you scout now, you do it at dusk. You avoid the main roads. You look for signs of life or signs of recent violence. You find a grocery store that has been turned into a fortress by a local militia. They are not interested in helping, they are protecting what is theirs. You realise the town is breaking into small armed fiefdoms. Your mid-sized town is now a collection of city-states. This changes the calculus. You do not just need food, you need a diplomatic strategy, or a better way to hide. Your water stores are nearly gone. You have to make a run to the reservoir. You take a wagon and every container you have. The trip is 3 miles, but it feels like 30. Every rustle in the bushes makes you freeze. You get to the water and see bodies near the shore, people who drank without filtering and died of cholera or worse. You use your filter straws and bleach like a holy ritual. You are bringing back the most precious cargo on Earth. One mistake and your family dies in agony. You meet another survivor who is not trying to kill you. He is a retired mechanic 3 streets over. You exchange information. He has fuel. You have a high-quality water filter. This is the birth of the barter economy. It is the first sign of civilization returning, but it is fragile. You do not tell him where you live. You do not tell him how much food you have left. You trade at a neutral site. Trust is a luxury you cannot afford, but cooperation is a necessity for survival. You are learning the dance. By day 20, the smell of the town is overwhelming. With no sanitation and no burials, the air is thick with a scent of decay. The rats are becoming bold. They are not afraid of humans anymore because humans are no longer the top of the food chain. You realize that the nuclear part of the war was just the beginning. The biological part, the diseases of the Middle Ages, is what will actually do the heavy lifting of the culling. You double down on your hygiene protocols. You wash with grey water. Your batteries are dying, your flashlights are dimming, you are back to living by the cycle of the sun. When it gets dark, you are blind. This is when the fear creeps back in. You sit in the pitch black, listening to the sounds of the night. Is that a footstep on the porch? Is that the wind or someone trying the door? You realise how much of our sanity depends on the flick of a light switch. Without it, you are just an animal in a burrow, waiting for the predator to find you. Day 25. You are down to 1 meal a day. Your temper is short. Your children are lethargic. You are starting to hallucinate slightly, just flashes in your peripheral vision. This is the starvation wall. Your brain is literalizing its hunger. You find yourself looking at the neighbour's ornamental koi pond not as a decoration, but as a source of protein. You are losing your humanity, layer by layer. The only thing keeping you going is the look in your wife's eyes. You cannot fail them. You will not fail them. A helicopter flies overhead. For 10 minutes, the whole neighbourhood comes alive. People run into the streets, waving white sheets, screaming. But the chopper does not land. It does not drop supplies. It is a high-altitude recon bird, just checking the damage. It vanishes over the horizon, and the silence that follows is deeper than before. The hope is a poison. It breaks the people who were just barely holding on. You go back inside and lock the door. You knew better. You are a student of the survival calculus, and the math does not care about helicopters. You have turned your house into a hard target. You have blocked the lower windows. You have cleared the brush from the yard to create a kill zone. You hate that you use that term, but that is the reality. You are no longer a homeowner. You are a commander of a very small, very hungry garrison. Every night you rotate watch with your oldest son. He is only 15, but he is holding a rifle with the steady hands of a man. You have stolen his childhood to save his life. By day 30, the immediate event is over. The radiation is low. The initial panic has burned out the weak. What is left is the long haul. This is the world now. There is no going back to normal. There is only the new normal. You have survived the first month, a feat 80% of your town failed to do. But survival is not a destination. It is a state of being. You look at your garden, the few seeds you managed to plant, and you realize you are now a farmer in a wasteland. In the months that follow, the town changes its shape. The suburbs are abandoned as people cluster together for warmth and defense. You move into a communal living situation with 3 other families. It is cramped, it is loud, and it is the only way to stay alive. You trade your skills as a mechanic for a share of the community garden. You are rebuilding a world from the scrap heap. The survival calculus has shifted from individual preservation to community resilience. If the group fails, you fail. Now you're looking at the calendar. Winter is coming. Without heating oil or a functioning power grid, the cold will be the next great colour. You are spending your days chopping wood and insulating the communal house with whatever you can find. You realise that the nuclear winter, the soot in the atmosphere, is making the season come early and stay longer. The sun is a pale, weak thing. You are living in a world of grey, but you are living. That is the only victory that matters. Gold is worthless. Paper money is fire starter. The new currency is salt, ammunition, and antibiotics. You find a stash of amoxicillin in a ruined pharmacy, and it is like finding a chest of pirate treasure. You trade 3 pills for a breeding pair of chickens. This is the macroeconomics of the apocalypse. You are learning that value is purely subjective. A gallon of clean water is worth more than a Ferrari. You look at the world through the lens of utility. Can I eat it? Can I use it to defend my family? A new leadership emerges in the town. It is not based on who was the mayor or the police chief. It is based on who can get things done. The guy who knows how to fix the solar panels is now the most powerful man in the county. The woman who can nurse a child through a fever is the second. You are part of the security detail. You have a purpose. The apathy of the old world is gone, replaced by a grim, focused industry. You do not have time for depression. You have too much work to do. You look back at day 7 and you realise that was the day you truly died. The version of you that cared about comfort and convenience. The man you are now is harder, leaner, and more alert. You realise that the grid was not just a system of wires and pipes. It was a cage that kept you soft. The lights are out, and they might never come back on in your lifetime. But as you watch your family sleep around the wood stove, you realise something terrifying. The grid isn't what keeps the lights on. It's what keeps the monsters out. And now the monsters are gone, because you became one to protect your own.